Are you doing everything right? You're eating healthier. Maybe you're trying to walk a little more. You're cutting back on the junk food. But when the lights go out, you're still facing that quiet frustration, that feeling of disconnect, that sense that your body, especially in the moments that matter most, just isn't responding the way it used to. You chalk it up to age. I'm over 60, you tell yourself. This is just how it is. But what if I told you that age is not the primary culprit? What if the real enemy, the silent saboteur of your masculine vitality, is something you hold in your hand every single night, just moments before you close your eyes? As a men's health coach with over 20 years of experience, I've worked with thousands of men from CEOs to retired factory workers who were on the brink of giving up. They believed their best years were behind them. But they were wrong. They weren't fighting against time. They were fighting against a single modern habit that was systematically dismantling their hormones, constricting their blood flow, and killing their erections from the inside out. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on this hidden danger. We are going to talk about the one thing you are likely doing every single night that is poisoning your manhood. I will break down the simple science of how it unleashes a destructive chain reaction in your body. I'll share stories of men just like you who reversed years of decline by making one small change. And most importantly, I will give you a simple, powerful strategy to stop this nightly assault and begin the process of reclaiming your strength, your confidence, and the rock-solid performance you thought was lost forever. This isn't about magic pills. This is about understanding your body and removing the one obstacle that's holding it back. So, stick with me, because the next 25 minutes could change everything you thought you knew about aging and vitality. All right, let's get right to the heart of the matter. The single most destructive habit for your erections that you likely do every night is this: staring at a screen within the last hour before you go to sleep. I'm talking about your phone, your tablet, your computer, or your television. I know what you're thinking. That's it? My phone? That sounds ridiculous. I understand the skepticism, but the scientific reality is far more serious than you can imagine. This isn't about eye strain. It's about a hormonal catastrophe that begins the second that blue light hits your retina. Let me tell you about Robert. He was 68, a retired teacher, and he came to me completely defeated. I sleep 8 hours a night, he said, but I wake up feeling like I've run a marathon. I have zero energy, my mood is terrible, and my performance in the bedroom, well, it's non-existent. I feel numb down there. Robert was convinced he had a serious medical condition, but his blood work was mostly normal. His diet was decent. He wasn't a heavy drinker. I asked him one question: Robert, what is the very last thing you do before you turn off the light? He thought for a moment and said, I scroll through the news on my phone for about 30 or 40 minutes. It helps me wind down. That was the smoking gun. That seemingly harmless habit was the source of his entire downward spiral. Here's the simple science. Your brain has a master clock, and it operates based on light. For thousands of years, humanity lived by a simple rhythm. Bright, bluish light from the sun during the day meant be awake, be alert. The warm, reddish light of sunset and fire, followed by darkness, meant prepare for rest, repair, and recovery. Your body produces a crucial hormone in response to darkness called melatonin. Most people think melatonin is just a sleep hormone. That's a massive understatement. Melatonin is a master antioxidant. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory agent. And most critically for you, it is the conductor of your entire nightly hormonal orchestra. But the bright blue spectrum light emitted by your phone screen is biochemically identical to morning sunlight. When you stare at that screen in a dark room, you are sending a blaring emergency signal to your brain that says, "It's noon, wake up, it's not time to rest." In response, your brain's pineal gland slams the brakes on melatonin production. It doesn't just reduce it, Studies from Harvard have shown it can suppress melatonin release by up to 90%. You are literally killing your supply of this master hormone night after night. Even if you fall asleep, you're not getting the deep, restorative sleep your body needs. You're getting a shallow, junk food version of sleep. You're running the engine all night without ever changing the oil. I challenged Robert. For the next 14 days, I told him, I want you to implement a digital sunset. 1 hour before bed, your phone gets plugged in across the room. No TV, no tablet. Read a book. Talk to your wife. Listen to music. Anything but a screen. He was deeply skeptical. How can that possibly fix my erection problems? He asked. I told him, trust the process. We have to stop the poison before we can start the healing. He agreed to try. 10 days later, I got an email from him. The subject line was just 2 words. You were right. He said he was waking up before his alarm, feeling refreshed for the first time in years. The brain fog was lifting, and for the first time in over a year, he had experienced a strong, natural morning erection. He hadn't changed his diet. He hadn't taken a single pill. He had simply allowed his body to produce the melatonin it was desperately crying out for. He stopped the Melatonin Massacre, and his body immediately started to heal itself. So, you've killed your melatonin production by staring at your phone. What happens next? This is where the chain reaction gets even more destructive. When your body is deprived of melatonin and deep sleep, it perceives a state of emergency. It thinks you're in danger. And what does your body do when it senses danger? It floods your system with the primary stress hormone, cortisol. Think of cortisol as the fight or flight hormone. It's designed for short-term survival. It raises your blood sugar for quick energy, it heightens your alertness, and it shuts down all non-essential systems. And in a state of emergency, your body considers your reproductive system to be very non-essential. Cortisol is the chemical arch-nemesis of testosterone. They are on a biological seesaw. When cortisol is high, testosterone production is suppressed. You simply cannot be in a state of high stress and optimal virility at the same time. It's a biological impossibility. Let me tell you about David, a 72-year-old retired accountant. David was a worrier. He was always on edge. His blood pressure was creeping up, and he felt a constant low-grade anxiety. I just can't relax, he told me. My mind is always racing, especially at night. And, of course, his intimate life had completely flatlined. Like Robert, David was a nightly phone scroller. He'd check his old stock portfolio, read political news, things that were guaranteed to agitate him. He was not only exposing himself to the blue light that killed his melatonin, but he was also pouring gasoline on his anxiety, jacking up his cortisol levels right before trying to sleep. Here's the simple science. Chronically elevated cortisol, especially at night when it should be at its lowest, does 2 terrible things to your erections. First, as we mentioned, it directly signals your testes to produce less testosterone. Low testosterone leads to low libido, low energy, and a weaker signal for the entire erectile process. It's like trying to start a car with a dead battery. Second, cortisol is a vasoconstrictor. That means it causes your blood vessels to tighten and narrow. An erection is all about vasodilation, the relaxing and opening of blood vessels to allow a rush of blood flow. Cortisol does the exact opposite. It's like putting a clamp on the fuel line. So, even if you had enough testosterone to send the signal, the high cortisol levels are physically preventing your blood vessels from responding properly. I explained this to David. Your nightly phone habit, I said, is putting you in a chemical state of chronic stress, even while you're asleep. You're marinating your body in cortisol all night long. His 14-day challenge was the same as Robert's, a strict digital sunset. For him, it was even harder. He felt the urge to check his phone, the phantom itch of a notification, but he stuck with it. The change was profound. After about a week, his wife called me. I don't know what you did, she said, but he's a different person. He's calmer. He's not snapping at every little thing. He's sleeping more soundly. David himself reported that his baseline anxiety had dropped by half. His blood pressure readings were lower in the morning. And the physical result? It's like something unclenched inside me, he explained. The feeling, the sensitivity, it's starting to come back. It's not perfect, but it's like a switch has been flipped. He had ended the nightly cortisol catastrophe, and his body was finally getting out of its own way. We've now seen how the blue light from your phone massacres your melatonin and unleashes a catastrophic flood of cortisol. This brings us to the final physical nail in the coffin, the nitric oxide shutdown. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that nitric oxide is the king. It is the master molecule that signals the smooth muscles in your arteries to relax, allowing blood to rush in and create a firm, lasting erection. Without sufficient nitric oxide, an erection is physically impossible. It doesn't matter how turned on you are. If there's no nitric oxide, the gates will not open, and the nightly habit of screen time attacks your nitric oxide levels from every possible angle. It's a coordinated, multi-front assault. Let's talk about Frank. Frank was 65, and he was the kind of guy who did his research. He was taking L-arginine. He had bought a beetroot supplement. He was doing everything he could to boost his nitric oxide. But he was getting zero results. It's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes, he said, frustrated. I'm putting all the good stuff in, but nothing is happening. I asked him about his sleep habits, and the story was the same. Every night, he'd lie in bed for an hour watching videos on his tablet. He thought it was harmless. Frank was unknowingly creating a biological environment where nitric oxide simply could not survive, let alone thrive. Here's the simple science of the shutdown. First, the high cortisol levels we just talked about directly inhibit the function of the enzyme that produces nitric oxide, called eNOS. Cortisol literally tells your blood vessels to stop making this crucial molecule. It's a direct biochemical command. Second, testosterone plays a vital permissive role in nitric oxide production. Healthy testosterone levels are required for your blood vessels to be sensitive and responsive to stimulation. When your testosterone is suppressed by the cortisol flood, your blood vessels become deaf to the signals telling them to produce nitric oxide. And third, the lack of deep, restorative sleep caused by the melatonin deficit prevents your body from repairing your vascular system. During deep sleep, your body goes to work cleaning and repairing the delicate lining of your arteries, the endothelium, where nitric oxide is made. When you rob yourself of that deep sleep, you allow inflammation and oxidative stress to build up, damaging the very factories that are supposed to produce nitric oxide. So, Frank's nightly tablet habit was a triple threat. It was actively stopping nitric oxide production via cortisol. It was making his blood vessels less responsive by suppressing testosterone, and it was preventing his body from repairing the nitric oxide factories in the first place. This is why his supplements weren't working. He wasn't just trying to fill a leaky bucket. He was trying to fill a bucket while someone was actively punching more holes in the bottom. The solution was obvious. He had to patch the holes first. I put him on the same 14-day digital sunset protocol. 2 weeks later, he called me, and he sounded like an engineer who had just solved a complex problem. "It makes perfect sense now," he said. "It wasn't that the supplements were bad. It was that my body was in a state of constant, self-inflicted blockade. In the last few days, it's like the system has finally come back online. The supplements are actually working now." He had removed the shutdown signal. By simply turning off the screen, he allowed his cortisol to fall, his testosterone to recover, and his body to finally begin repairing his vascular system. He stopped the nightly nitric oxide shutdown, and the blood flow returned. Now, I want you to take a step back and see the whole picture. This isn't about 3 separate problems. This is a single, devastating chain reaction, a destructive cascade. It starts with one simple, seemingly innocent action. You look at a screen before bed. That blue light immediately massacres your melatonin. The lack of melatonin and deep sleep signals an emergency, flooding your body with the stress hormone, cortisol. That cortisol then wages a two-front war. It suppresses your testosterone and simultaneously constricts your blood vessels. This toxic hormonal environment, high cortisol and low testosterone, shuts down your body's ability to produce the most critical molecule for erections, nitric oxide. Do you see it? It's a domino effect. One domino tips the next, which tips the next, until your entire system of masculine vitality comes crashing down. It's a perfect storm of hormonal and vascular destruction. This is why just taking a single supplement often fails. It's why just eating one superfood might not be enough. If you are actively poisoning your hormonal system for 1 to 2 hours every single night, you are constantly undermining any good you are trying to do during the day. But here is the incredible news. Because it's a cascade, you don't have to fix every single problem individually. You just have to stop the first domino from falling. When you implement the digital sunset, you stop the entire chain reaction in its tracks. You turn off the screen. Melatonin production is restored. You get deep, restorative sleep. This tells your body the emergency is over. Cortisol levels plummet back to normal. With cortisol out of the way, the seesaw tips back. Your body can resume healthy testosterone production, and in this calm, balanced hormonal state, your blood vessels can finally heal and start producing nitric oxide again. It's a synergistic healing. You fix one problem, and you get 3 or 4 benefits as a result. This is the secret. This is how men like Robert, David, and Frank made such dramatic progress in just 2 weeks. They didn't add a dozen new things. They removed the one thing that was causing all the damage. You now have the knowledge that can change the entire trajectory of your health. You understand the hidden enemy. You see the destructive cascade it triggers every single night. The question is, what will you do with this information? Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Every night that you continue this habit, you are choosing to let poor circulation and hormonal chaos win. But you are here. You have watched to the end. That tells me you are not a man who accepts defeat. You are a man who is ready to take back control. The tools are now in your hands. The science is clear. And the first step is remarkably simple. I'm not asking you to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. I am asking you to make one small commitment. Just one. For the next 14 days, I challenge you to create a digital sunset in your own life. 1 hour before your planned bedtime, all screens go off. The phone is plugged in across the room. The TV is off. The tablet is put away. That's it. That is your first, most powerful step. Observe what happens. Notice how you feel when you wake up. Notice the clarity in your mind. Notice the changes in your body, the return of warmth, of energy, of readiness. Your body has an incredible, magnificent capacity to heal. You just have to give it the chance. You have to get out of its way. 6 months from now, you will be 6 months older no matter what. Will you look back on today as just another day you watched a video? Or will you look back on it as the day you made a decision, the day you finally took control of your health on your own terms? The power is yours. If this video has opened your eyes, please do 3 things for me. First, click the like button. It tells the algorithm that this is important information that more men need to see. Second, share your commitment in the comments below. Just type, "I'm taking the 14-day challenge." When you write it down, it becomes real, and your comment might just be the inspiration another man needs to start his own journey. And finally, if you want more of this honest, no-nonsense, science-backed advice to reclaim your vitality, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. You are not alone on this path. Thank you for trusting me with your time today. Now, go turn off your phone and start the healing.